I'm Phil DiCollegiero. I'm the Executive Director of the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce, and you're joining us for another episode of Behind the Brick Wall. This is a program that we helped create with our friends from Amesbury Community Television to go behind the brick wall of Amesbury's businesses to learn more about the neat people and businesses that drive our local economy. And today we're staying true to our mission. We're going behind the brick walls of, two very neat businesses, one larger, one smaller, but two doing some pretty neat things here in the city of Amesbury. We're joined by our friend, our hostess, Janet Faulkner. Janet, who are we visiting today?
Thank you, Phil. First we are going to meet with Bob O'Brien, who is one of the founders of CI Works. And CI Works is right there at 11 Chestnut, and it is literally behind the brick wall. He's got 45 businesses over there. We could spend a lot of time, but we are going to be interviewing Holly B, and you'll learn more about the business that she's got there.
Cool. And so, Holly B Designs, she's one of Bob's makers. And Bob is full of not just makers, but a lot of professionals too. So I'm eager to check out that space. I'm looking forward to the tour.
Great.
Let's go.
Good morning, Bob. Thanks so much for letting us show up today to talk to you about all the great things here at CI Works.
Good morning. Welcome to CI Works. We're glad to have you here. I think the program you're running is important for the city to be aware of what can happen in Amesbury and is happening in Amesbury already.
Well, what you do here is the epitome of what behind the brick wall is. You literally have brick walls, as everybody can see. And as we've discussed, there is so much that's happening in this building that a lot of people aren't aware of, even people that live right here in town.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, Amesbury has an amazing history, and we're not trying to recreate history, but we're trying to have an updated version of that, and use this building for similar purposes, just more of a 21st century types of opportunities.
Now, tell everybody, I'm pretty familiar with the building and with a lot of the spaces here, and have always been really excited about this project. But tell the people that may not be as familiar a little bit about the history and how this started in Amesbury.
So this part of Amesbury, the Lower Mill Yard, which has really been forgotten to a great extent, but it was the center of the carriage industry. The rail trail was prior a rail line shipping carriages across the country, and in this area, the electric vehicle was also invented and manufactured by Bailey Electric, and that was 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, and it was a pretty vibrant industry, and there was just a lot of vibrancy going on here. This particular building was part of the carriage industry. It was used most recently by a company called ARC Technologies, who was moving to a larger, more open space, and we were invited over here to actually focus on small businesses. If we could have had 3 businesses in the entire building, we wouldn't have done that. We have 45 businesses here, and we absolutely cater to small businesses in ways that other real estate people do not do, and that's absolutely our intent, and will continue to be our mission.
And you have 45 businesses, so you have you've been a bit of an incubator, right? So
a little bit, yeah.
So what would you say the smallest business is here, and what's the largest business?
We never let it get large as such. The largest footprint that anybody occupied was about 5,000 square feet. And then that's been subdivided down since there. Smallest is 200 or 300 square feet. One thing you'll see in looking through the building is we try to stay away from building walls as much as possible. Walls kind of create an antiseptic approach and individuality of particular businesses. We try to get businesses to absolutely cooperate, communicate, collaborate, all of those fancy C words, but effectively work together and do things together, and it's worked out pretty well.
That's great. That whole collaborative community here has is a pretty special.
It's the history of Amesbury, and really, whenever I've looked into that, and the Industrial History Center is one of my sources. I think John Mayer's done a fantastic job there, but there was a lot of collaboration across companies in Amesbury. It's part of the history, and we try to continue that history now. So rather than just doing something crazy, we're just trying to recreate a success.
Are there specific businesses that we'll get to see today that you can tell us more about? I know I'm looking behind you at Blackburn Energy, and I know where they are in the facility. But tell us a little bit about some of the tenants that are here.
It's like industry in Amesbury's always been a bit all over the map. There were carriages and nails and. ARC was doing, government contracting and radar absorbing materials and stuff like that. We have companies here that are, I would consider, state of the art in terms of their inventions. Blackburn Energy has actually invented a renewable energy generation system that works within a truck to create a secondary battery source for alternative uses like tailgates and refrigeration, those types of things. They just got a $2.5 million investment from Toyota, so they're getting something right.
Wow, that's great.
Most recently, a government contract that they can't talk about, but they're really getting into the trucking industry and as a bridge to eventual full electrification. But another is a company that makes decorative doors out of old barnwood, which is a total reuse of old materials, and they make beautiful doors, and it's wood that would have been thrown away or burned otherwise. So
wow,
I think that
great.
Reuse is absolutely fantastic. Another company actually is working in nanomaterials, and we're seeing those nanomaterials show up in different companies' products, and you'll actually see that later this morning with Holly Design. But they're also embedding the nanomaterials in skin creams, which will actually produce, and when exposed to passive light, it will actually be a skin treatment, which I think is absolutely crazy. But they're doing it.
And you also have food products here, correct?
We have really not in this building. We're operating out of another building that had more food products, so which was probably a benefit to us, frankly, with the COVID challenges that came up. Our business is just basically kept running, and there wasn't a single day that somebody wasn't here, and our role is to manage the facility and turn the lights on and make sure that everything's paid for. So we really didn't have a day off during, kind of the COVID situation, but not having food processing in this building ended up being a benefit. So.
Great. So that's one of the things that we've talked about with different businesses that we've interviewed. How was this facility impacted with COVID, and how did you pivot during that situation?
This particular building, we had one company that shut down, but were required to. The company was Raytheon, so just start there. Raytheon never shut down, particularly their government contracting division, and that's who Wire Techniques works with, is in the government contracting area. So Wire Techniques was being pressured by their client to be open, and their read on the government was they had to be closed. So we actually reached out to Senator DiZoglio's office, and Diana, kind of checked into it at the State House, and as long as they had a letter from Raytheon indicating that they were considered a critical business, they could actually open and operate, and it ended up being a source of recovery for them, and then their contracts with Raytheon have since grown. Others just worked from home, and that was part of it. But one thing that never changed was you got a family with kids. There's a lot of noise at home, and some people just needed to get out and be in a space that they had some quiet and could actually do their job. And offices we use that way. Some people never shut down. They're making barn doors every day during COVID, and we followed the city and state guidelines as much as possible, but we weren't trying to shut anybody down. We were trying to help them lean into the opportunity in web sales, and web sales really caused businesses to take off. It was a benefit.
Great. That's really interesting. You also mentioned that you reached out to Senator DeZoglio's office. You also do workshops and things here, so tell us a little bit about that.
There are 45 small businesses, and that means a couple of things. One is owner, one employee, they don't have time to follow up on like state programs and things like that, and even state benefits and grants and things that might be available to them. But Jim Kelcourse was one, Diana was another, that actually brought different state agencies that we never would have gotten to come to Amesbury and come to this building on our own. And they were instrumental in getting them here and expose procurement processes that was available at the state level. I mean, the state spends a boatload of money, and you add in city spend on top of that. That's a huge pool of assets that if you can get plugged into the procurement mechanism, it's much better for your business, and that's worked out pretty well. And we've also had situations. We reached out to Diana when nobody knew what we could do in COVID with Raytheon demanding open. Other companies just similar situations. It was really a what do I do mode. And I think between Jim and Diana, we've had great representation that have been available and cooperative and been there for people when they needed them. So.
But that's a service that a lot of landlords don't provide. No. So that was a real plus and a real bonus and gift for the tenants here, I would imagine.
We try to do things that others don't do.
Right.
We don't try to do what everyone else does in real estate. We try to go that extra level, but also look at what's important to companies, what they require to be successful, and how can we lean into that to help them be successful. I mean, the Mass Clean Energy Center is another resource. There are 5 companies here that receive grants for the Mass Clean Energy Center, and we've been able to use that ×5 leverage to get Steve Pike, when he was heading up the Clean Energy Center, here a few times just to kind of check in on the businesses, but that's also how they find new opportunities. So it's going that extra yard. And it's been great for the companies, and we get it back in the long run. The whole success model is if they're successful, they grow. If they grow, they need more space. If they need more space, the only problem we have right now is we don't have space.
Right.
But it's
that's a nice challenge to have.
Yeah. But the businesses are really vibrant, and that's pretty satisfying.
And it's that word of mouth, and it's people being happy and satisfied and feeling the benefits of being here.
It's all been word of mouth, and getting referrals from our companies are our best referral source. The next referral source are people in Amesbury that connect us with people looking for space. And in the small business world, it's really hard to find people. I'm actually working on a piece of software right now which can be used to identify small business based upon a combination of data that our companies can then find other companies. We can find companies and even help build supply chains. So it's really, we're all about small businesses 100% of the time.
Now, the people that you have, those 45 businesses, how many people do you employ in Amesbury, would you say? Or I wouldn't say that you employ, but how many employees work out of this building? Do you know?
We employ myself and Mark Fryery, and we do all the work in terms of owning and managing the building, but within the building there's probably about 100 people working. Great. And then that extends out further to some from home and affiliations and so forth. But I think there's definitely 100 people working in Amesbury in what otherwise would have been an empty building, which we were determined not to let happen.
And that's fantastic, because those are then 100 people that are shopping in Amesbury, having lunch in Amesbury, and some that may have moved to Amesbury. So that's great.
We've been, one of the first things I ran into with Amesbury, it didn't seem to be on anybody's radar. I'd mentioned calling different state offices, and I'd mentioned Amesbury, and the first question was, is that in Massachusetts? And
oh, that's funny.
I think it's now known to be in Massachusetts, and I think Amesbury could do an even better job of telling people about the successes that have occurred here. And I'm not talking about just CI Works. I'm talking about other things in the city. ARC Technologies, the vibrancy. It can be. It is gorgeous, and too many people don't know about it.
Now, you're a member of the Amesbury Chamber.
Yes.
What benefits have you found with being a member of the Chamber, and how can the Chamber support you?
Phil has been absolutely fantastic. He just
agree.
does an tireless job, and if there's a question, Phil's there to answer it. Programs like this, I think, are huge for the awareness building in the city. Now that COVID has kind of set a little bit, I just enjoy getting out and talking to people, and what's the status of your business, what have you learned, and just physical contact and communication has really been nice to see when Phil got things rolling and on that front again, and it's been very helpful and useful to us.
Great. Well, it's been very interesting and really good to see you.
Thank you.
Bob.
Appreciate it.
I love talking to Bob. I'm kind of jealous that you got to have that, that one-on-one with him, but wow, that is a neat space they have on Chestnut Street.
It is, and they have it was a great interview, and I've known Bob for a while, and it was just so nice to have a great conversation about how they've grown and how they had to adapt during COVID, and it's amazing. They're doing a great job over there.
He lives his values. I don't know how many people realize how much work he puts in. At the Chamber, we have an economic development committee that meets once a month and talks about how we can help improve the business climate here. And it's almost like this microclimate, right? Because at CI Works, he's created this neat space. I keep using the word neat because that's the perfect word to describe the space. He's created this neat space where he's helping encourage those entrepreneurs. Some of them are really mature. Some of them have been on national television, right? And some of them are just starting out, and it's great that he can create that space for people here in Amesbury. So, and we're about to find out one of those people's names and what they're doing there, right?
Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you there. We're meeting with Holly B. and Holly B Designs, and you'll see the great artwork that she has. She's got work in some of the local stores, but we'll see more about what she does right there at CI Works.
Let's go check it out.
Holly, thanks so much for carving the time out of your busy day to show me around, show us what you're doing here at CI Works. So thank you. Tell me a little bit about you've told me, tell
Yes.
the viewers how your business came to be and a little bit about what you've got going on here.
So I basically started, I'd say 8 years ago, and it was kind of ironic how it started. I had a daughter who was riding horses at the time, and it was Christmas, like October, and a good friend of mine from Amesbury, Carol Lee, called up and said, "Hey, I found the most perfect gift for you to give." And I said, "What's that?" And she goes, "It's a horse head wreath." I said, "Oh, that's fabulous for the trainer." So I called up and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're sold out." And I'm like, "You're sold out? It's October." So I told Carolee, "Thank you for the input, but unfortunately I didn't have it." And she said, "No, I meant for you to make one, silly."
Oh.
So I said, "Oh," and what a great idea. She goes, "You're crafty, do something." And I tried to do it. I did the first one. It kind of looked like a donkey or a mule, but I was surprised how many people liked it. So then I'm like, I could better this. So I guess that's when I hummed in on the skills that I didn't really know I had. I joke about being 58 years old and discovering what I really like to do in life. And thank you. So I went out and hand sketched the head of the horse that we had, brought it back, put it on plywood, cut it out with a jigsaw, and went out and got live greens. That's actually how I started. And it kind of grew and grew. And then people were asking for different things, like with driftwood. So I really got into driftwood art. And at the time, what I was working from was my kitchen. So I'd like to say it was nice and organized, but I'd be very lying. But I went through 2 kitchen tables, literally
That's a great
sawed
story.
through them. And my husband goes, okay, we're gonna put you down in the cellar. So he made this beautiful room for me downstairs. And the company, it just like more and more people were asking things. And I realized that it was pretty much, my father loved wood carving as a hobby, and my mother loved painting. And I was kind of surprised that I was like doing them both. So he moved me down to the room in the basement, Well, at the time, our in-law suite was completely vacant. I quickly took all that over too. And he's like, all right, we're going to need to build you a garage or something because this is getting
Because things kept
expanding.
Business was expanding.
Yeah, it was more like I loved to do it. I couldn't stop doing it. So before I moved here one time, my husband said to me, I saw this really neat thing. I think you'd really like to do it. And I was like, okay. But I was so busy with my driftwood art and things, so I was like, sure. So I look out my back door, and he has this machine apart, and he's making something. Like, what are you doing? And unfortunately, I think I was just half listening. I'm like, okay, well, that's a really bad mess he's making out there, but that's just, he can do it. It's his house. So I came in, and he said, oh, it didn't work like I thought. Oh, I'm sorry, honey, At that time, I had to do a drop-off into one of our first stores, Good Juju. Actually, the first store we opened up was Amesbury 18 Friend Street with Colleen McGowan. Yeah. She was the first one that said, sure, I'd love to sell your things. So that was our first opening. And then a store in Newmarket called Good Juju contacted us. So we went to bring the wood products there, and we were both hungry afterwards, so we went to this deli. Inside this deli was this amazing bar, and it was all fractional burns. And I said to my husband, I said, oh my goodness, look at how beautiful I'm like, look how beautiful this is. And he said, yeah, that's what I was trying to make, one of those machines. I thought you would like to do it.
Oh.
And I was like, you have to do it again. You have to get it right. So he looked at me like, so he goes home and he builds one, and that really pretty much catapulted me into going into stores, making products that were just unique and one of a kind. So that led to a friend saying, you need to get bigger. You need more workspace. It's like every part of that house I was full of in the bottom.
Wow.
So I remember 3 years before that, my daughter was doing an internship here. She said, you have to come see this amazing building, Mom. So she's walking me through, and now it's funny because now she's a Marine. She decided to go into the Marine Corps, and it was really unique. So we toured this, and she said, Mom, this is where you should go. And I said, oh, honey, I'd never be able to go in there. I'll never get that big. It'll never happen. So I came here.
And she could see it.
I think she could. She was very, very smart, very wise for her age. And I came in, and I called up, and Mr. O'Brien was very pleasant. He said, come on in, we'll talk. So we came in, and I explained to him what I was doing, and pleasantly surprised to hear how well they would work with me, and been really the best cheerleaders I think I've ever had as far as giving me advice, giving me direction. So he showed me all around, and I'm like, well, I just need a little space, just a little space. So I said, I think this would be good over here. And he said, I don't think that's good room for you. I don't think that's going to work. So he takes me to where I am now in one section, and it was really nice. And I'm like, oh, this is really big. But what if I don't make it? What if it doesn't work? And I remember he looked at me and goes, you never know till you try. And I'm like, you're right. So we moved in, and things just grew. We went from, at the time when I came in here, I think we were just heading into our 7th store. In the last year and a half, we've gone to 30.
Wow, so you've grown from 7 stores to 30 in a year and a half.
In a year and a half
so your
of being
production
here.
has
quadrupled. But what's the nicest thing about all of this is that the contacts I have made from being in here and the help. Like every one of these other makers in here,
yep.
I've had the pleasure of working with most of them, and it's been wonderful. It's been a great learning experience. I think what this building gave me was a chance to grow farther than I ever thought I could, but to expand my knowledge and things I didn't know that others here were doing.
Right.
We've done several collaborations that have been great, but I can't say enough. I can't say enough about this place.
That's great.
You know?
That's great, and that's how this whole project here has grown, right?
Yes.
From word of mouth. And you weren't familiar with the building before your daughter introduced you to the building?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I learned to ride my bike, my first bicycle, in this parking lot. I grew up down the street.
Oh,
At the
okay.
time, it was a LeBaron Bonney car manufacturing, this whole block. I was always here for a long time. As a little girl, my best friend was in the corner of the street here. So when I had a chance to come back home, I couldn't wait to do
Isn't
it.
that funny? So you've come full
Full circle. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. And I think the opportunities of being in an old brick building, it makes you be more creative. It helps you create more things and be part of things, and it's wonderful.
There's a great creative vibe here.
It is, very much so.
And that collaborative aspect of it is huge.
Yes, like we just brought in a brand new laser division, and we've already worked with Fling Golf. We're doing their glasses. Beowulf has contacted us. I think what I love the most is it's really been a nice community thing too.
I think that you may have to speak to Mr. O'Brien about more space, because I think that whole division is going to
Explode.
From what I saw,
Oof.
I think it's going to really take off.
Well, I have to laugh because he would walk by and he would say, pretty soon you're going to need the spot next to you. And I'm like, oh, Bob, you're so funny. No, I won't. And then we came to our first 6 months and I'm like, Bob, can I talk to you about over here? He's like, sure. And then we hit a year. And I'm like, Bob, if there's more space that comes available, can I, and again, Mark comes down and says, I see this great thing, you should think about doing this. And I'm like, it is pretty good. So
isn't that great, that caring atmosphere?
Mm-hmm. You know what it is? I think it's scary when you're starting out on your own. And it's scary because there's avenues you haven't gone through. I've always been in retail, so I had that experience going out and selling my product. Wasn't as difficult, but a lot of this has been new for me, and a lot of the people in here have helped me through it. Advice from Mark and Bob, how to maybe better market, how to better expose, and always in your corner, which I think is huge. And
that's great.
You don't think you see that. When you look at this building, you don't see all the personalities in here. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really funny. We were talking that you say that about all the different personalities, because we don't look at it like that, right? So there are 45 tenants here and such a variety. And it's great that it's such a creative space.
I love it. I love it. I would highly recommend, if somebody's dreaming of trying to start something, or even try it, just try it.
So you are originally from Amesbury, and do you live in Amesbury now?
No, I live in Salisbury. At the time, we had a phenomenal opportunity to buy some nice land and build a house, so we took that opportunity.
Great.
I'd love to be back in town someday, but right now it's wonderful to be back here working.
How many employees do you have?
I actually this sounds funny, we're going to be going to the employee status next. Those two women that you met downstairs, they come every day just to help out. Joanne and Joanne and I drove school buses together, and she was retiring, and she goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, oh, I know what you can do. And she's been with me the whole process.
Wow.
The other young lady, Tanya, I grew up with her. We were best friends in this town. And then she's not working either, and she goes, I just need something to do. So she comes every day and works with me. And it's really, it is great. I think we're going to have to go to the next level and start employing people, but that's a whole other avenue we're going to be going down shortly, because the laser etching and the glass is expanded much faster than forecasted, that we forecasted.
That's a nice challenge to have.
Thank you.
With that growth and that expansion. At least you can be comfortable that you have a home here for your business, because there will be room to expand.
Oh, I don't know if we're going to be doing that anytime soon, but.
And the stores that you're in, are they mostly local? You also, I think you had mentioned about shipping to North Carolina. So do you have a national business now? We have started going national. We are in 2 stores in New York now, Saratoga, New York, and we have just branched out to South Carolina. So we have Hilton Head, Beaufort, Port Royal, and St. Helena. And do you sell online as well? We do. We just opened a storefront. That's something that really needs to be worked with. We just honestly have not had the time. We were very lucky to have a young lady from Amesbury, Kylie Brown, did our website for us, so that's up and going. But now we have to do a whole nother website for the glass. I think it's just finding time. It's just finding the time to do all the things that we need to get done, and that's one of my learning curves, being new to this and actually branching out like we are branching out. And you may have those resources right here in this building.
I do, yes, I
Good.
do. It's just,
Good.
it's wonderful.
That's great. And you're a member of the chamber.
We are, yes, brand new member of the chamber, very excited about that. I think anytime you get a chance to be part of where you grew up, how do you go wrong? And Phil was great. I look forward to working with Phil a lot. I love the personality, love working with him. I love what I see happening in Amesbury. I think growing up here, you know, a lot of these buildings were vacant.
Yep.
And it was kind of sad. Like, we watched the creation of Newport happening. And I think at the time was like, well, why can't we be like, I know my younger generation was like, why can't we be like Newport? You know, look what they have. And to see Amesbury doing what it's doing is phenomenal. And I think it's only going to get better and bigger. And I look forward to seeing this all becoming one with the downtown and the, you know, the lower mill yard, of us all being one. I think it's going to be great.
There's a lot of growth happening.
Yes.
And it's businesses that take the risk and
Yes.
and step out and then grow that really are
I can't
helping
wait till more
the city
people
grow.
find out what is in this building. Like the gentleman that makes our barn doors, they're so beautiful, and he's sought after. And you know, Fling Golf, who was on Shark Tank,
Yep.
went, you know, they're going national. And then you have this incredible man that makes these antique coins, replicas of antique coins, and Heather, who makes incredible clothing. I mean, this building is amazing to walk through.
That's great. And, well, I love your energy, and I love
thanks.
I love all the products that you're creating
Thank you.
downstairs. It's really fun to see.
Thank you very much.
I wish you the best of success, and I look forward to watching you grow.
Oh, thank you, Jenna, very
Thanks for
much.
taking the time. I know how busy
My pleasure.
you
My
were.
pleasure.
It was fun to get to see all of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time, too.
Sure.
I love Holly's story, and that is a neat space at CI Works that she's got going over there. Wow.
And she has great energy, and she has a great project. But yes, her story, the way she grew from working at her kitchen table into the basement, and then it was her daughter that prompted her to look over there. So it was she stepped outside of her comfort zone. Another woman, by the way, in her 50s that started this new career, so that was kind of cool to see. But she's the epitome of success that starts there at CI Works.
Like a model business. And it's just a good reminder, again, Bob's created the space, Mark's created the space at CI Works that's allowed 45-ish, right? Entrepreneurs to build companies of varying sizes. And there's Holly creating this neat business that has retailers up and down the East Coast, across the country. I mean, selling her products.
And what's so funny is she didn't realize that Bob was still in the room and kind of sitting behind, and she was really gushing about how supportive both Mark and Bob have been, and how they had faith in her to, you know, take on all this space, and then she outgrew that space, and now they're adding another division, and she talked about Tim and Zach and these different people in that building that collaborate and have, you know, helped her. And that's the whole spirit of what they do over there at CI Works. And it's kind of the best kept secret, unfortunately, because people don't know that they're there hiding in that big mill building. So I'm really glad. Thank you for the opportunity to interview with them and to meet them and to kind of showcase what they're doing over there.
It's
I
all
think
about
we need to do a
storytelling.
little bit more over there. There's so many cool businesses, just like with the other, you know, some of the other mills in town. It's
Amazing.
behind, and a lot's going on behind the brick wall. So thank you.
No, so this is a program that you make possible. You take time out of your day to go and actually interview these people to help tell their story. Because if you notice, we don't say go shop there, go buy here, go rent from these people. We just want you to know the story, our viewers to know the story of what's happening here in Amesbury. And it's a story, or stories that we can tell because you, Faulkner Commercial Group, Mountaintop Landscaping, and Amesbury Community Television all work together each month to try and create this platform to tell the Amesbury story.
Yeah, and you know, we do those quick interviews, and it's really just conversational. But what's funny is, in almost all instances, once the cameras stop, the conversation continues. And and I'll always say, oh, I wish we had caught that. on, I wish we had caught that on camera. I think the point is to make the introduction to these people and to these businesses, and then people can, look online and then seek them out. But it's really great. It's been really fun.
Well, I'm glad that you do it and that the team at ACTV helps us make this happen. And of course, Mountaintop Landscaping helping get the message out there for us in the Amesbury business community. So thank you to those folks, those partners, and of course to Holly B Design and CI Works for making this program possible today. And I hope that you check them out and check out past videos as well. Thank you.